Alright, Mr. Shank here. We are going to go through the answers for the quiz number 1. So for this you need your quiz, it should be corrected, and a pencil or a red pen so you can make the corrections. So I'm just going to go through, and for some of this I might show you a picture of the answers, some of it I'll do the work with you. So for the first page here, I am just going to show you for number 1, it was greatest common factor. So that is where you should be listing out your factors and thinking about it maybe like a factor rainbow. Make sure everything has a pair and look for the greatest common factor. In this case is 2. Number 2 is least common multiple. Here's where you list out your multiples for each of the numbers until you get a common number, in this case 24. So if you need to stop and make any corrections, make sure you just pause the video so you can do that. Okay, we're going to go to page number 2. Okay, so number 3 says, Rick has an away game for basketball every 2 weeks. His sister has an away game for volleyball every 3 weeks. If they both had an away game this week, in how many weeks will they both have an away game? So this is one of those problems where you're going to have to think. It's asking, when is something going to happen again? Let me get this so I can write. So anytime we have a problem where they are asking, when will something happen again, we should know that's LCM. So it's 2 weeks and 3 weeks, so we're going to count by 2s, and we're going to count by 3s until we get the same number. And I know I'm running out of room, but I should be able to see my LCM there would be 6, so 6 weeks. Okay, number 4, it's saying that a clerk has 14 cans of tomato soup, 28 cans of chicken noodle, and 21 cans of vegetable. They want to put them in equal bins. What's the greatest? So you see the key word there is greatest? It should tell you it's going to be GCF. So I'm going to show you the picture here. You just have to list out the factors for each number and find the greatest number that's in every list. In this case it's 7. So if you want to pause the video and try to do it and then correct it, make sure you're trying that. Okay, we'll move on here. Question number 5. Okay, this one I'm going to go over. So it says to write the ratio of boxes to cans in simplest form, then explain the meaning. So first thing to do is count boxes and cans. You should count 12 boxes to 8 cans. Okay, when we write a ratio, it's really important. The order does matter. So you need to write the boxes first, because that comes first here, then the cans. So I'm going to write it over here as a fraction as 12 to 8. So to simplify that, if I look at 12 and 8, I see they have a common factor of 4, so I'm going to divide by 4. And I get 3 over 2, which is a ratio of 3 to 2. So then I have to explain the meaning. Okay, the 3 means boxes. So I say for every 3 boxes, there are 2 cans. Okay, so some keys there, remember, the order matters, and then we have to simplify that. Okay, so we're going to keep going, go to the next page. So starting on the top, number 6. Okay, this says find the ratio of gold medals won by the USA to the total number of gold medals won by all the countries shown in the table in simplest form. So it's USA's medals to the total number of gold medals by all of the countries. So USA has 24, and all the countries together, if I add those up, have 60. So my ratio is going to be 24 to 60. Okay, and actually I'm going to do my work in the space down below, and I'll write my explanation up top. So ratio is 24 to 60. To simplify that, okay, I look for a common factor. Maybe I know that they have a common factor of 6. Divide each part by 6, and I get 4 to 10. Look at that, and I know they're both even, so I divide by 2. I get 2 to 5. So what that means is 2 out of every 5 medals, medals were won by the USA. since this is kind of like a part to whole ratio, right? So moving on, make sure you're pausing it and taking the time to make your corrections. Number 7, at a summer camp, there are 40 boys out of 70 campers. What is this ratio as a fraction in simplest form? Well, I'm going to write it as a fraction, 40 out of 70. We'll simplify that. I see they both end in a 0. I know they have a factor of 10. So if I divide by 10, I get 4 over 7, and that's my simplified ratio. Okay, number 8. We have to write these as a unit rate. Uh-oh, lost all my writing. That's right, you can rewind the video if you need to see it. So as a unit rate, I kind of told you when you were taking it, the tip here would be to use division. So for number 8, 48 candies in 3 packages, I'm going to write it with work. It's going to look like this. And I want to label my numbers here. 48 candies, 3 packages. Sorry, it's kind of sloppy. I'm on the iPad. And I just have to divide, and I get 16. Most important part here is that you label it. And guys, I've showed you when I label it, I just look at the units. It's candies. The line means per package. So when I label that, I need to make sure I follow the right order. 16 candies per package. Okay, number 9 is going to be very similar. I'm going to write down my work, 144, divide by 6, label my work so I know what my unit's going to be at the end. Students in 6 classes. So it's 144 students in 6 classes. When I do the division here, I'm just using my calculator. A lot of you were trying long division. You don't have to, just do it in the calculator. Okay, and at the bottom I'll write my answer. I get 24, and that means students per class. Okay, so I have to label that. Let's see if I can write it neat enough you can see. Bear with me, I'm not very good at writing on the iPad. Students per class. Might be able to read that. Okay, so keep going here. Next page. Number 10 on the top. It's a very similar problem. This one's asking you how many words per minute did she type. So it's another unit rate problem. So if I know it's words per minute, I'm going to write my work as 952 words over 40 minutes. And I can do the division in my calculator. When I do that, you get a decimal. A lot of you guys were rounding. You don't have to. We can use decimals here. So it's 23.8. And we label it. Look at your work. It's words over minute. So it's words per minute. And that's how fast she was able to type. Number 11. So at swimming practice, it shows the laps and the minutes for 2 different people here. Cindy, 16 laps, 12 minutes. Benji, 14 laps and 7 minutes. Since their times are different and the laps are different, we have to compare their unit rates in order to find out who's faster. First question says, did each student do their math correctly? Okay, the answer to this is yes. When I look at Cindy's work, she has minutes per lap. That means, I'm going to write Cindy here, her work had to have been 12 minutes divided by 16 laps. When I do that in my calculator, I get 0.75. And if you look at her label, it's minutes per lap because she divided minutes by laps. So her work is right. When I look at Benji's work, he has laps per minute, so he had to have divided the other way around. He put the laps on top, so he did 14 laps divided by 7 minutes. And you know 14 divided by 7 is 2. And you look at his unit rate, over here it's laps per minute. So he just divided the other way and found a different unit rate, but they're still both correct. So a good explanation here, it says, did each student do their math correctly? Okay, explain how you know. So I would say yes, and explaining how I know, I might say something along the lines of, they just found a different unit rate. Cindy did minutes per lap, and Benji did laps per minute. So they were both right, they just found a different unit rate. So for part B, it's asking who's the faster swimmer, explain how you know. You're going to need to do one of the swimmers' unit rate the same as the other. So right now you can't compare. These numbers aren't the same unit rate, so you really can't compare. So one way to do it would be, let's find Cindy's unit rate as laps per minute. So for Cindy, I'm going to write my work here. I'm going to do 16 laps divided by 12 minutes, and I get 1.3 repeating laps per minute. Okay, so now I can compare Cindy. She only did 1.3 laps per minute. Benji did 2 laps per minute. So when I look at that, who did more laps per minute? The answer is Benji. Okay, I'm going to have to zoom in here. So explain how I know. He did more laps per minute because I did the math. He did 2 and Cindy only did 1.3. Alright, let's keep going here. For the ratio tables on the next page, it's going to show you some answers here. Okay, if you look at the top one, the answer should be $5. Okay, there are a lot of ways you could do your work, but remember, we only are allowed to multiply or divide on these. So if you look at mine, that's one way. You think to yourself, what's a number that 12 can turn into? That can get to 10, and I did 2 by dividing by 6 to the ratio table. And then how do I get from 2 to 10? Times by 5. Okay, and down on the bottom, your answer should be 125. Again, you have to think, what's a number 3 can turn into? I did 15. That can also turn into 5. And you have to only multiply or divide, and we get our equivalent ratio. Okay, so you don't have to pause if I went a little too fast. We'll go to the last page here, and I'll let you check. All right, some things you have to make sure is, your ordered pair needs parentheses around them. Ignore that red line. I just drew that for comparison. The blue line should be what your graph looks like. We put our points on the ordered pair. So my first point should be 1, 7. That means over 1, up 7. Then over 2, up 14, and so on. Okay, a lot of people might have this highlighted. It says explain the pattern in the graph. So something you have to do is avoid the word it. Okay, we're not going to say it goes up by 7 because that's kind of vague. Just describe what does the it mean. So I might have wrote like it and crossed it out on your paper. I don't want you using the word it. You need to be specific. So a good way to say it would be each day Dawson earns 7. Or something along the lines of his earnings increased by 7 each day, or $7 each day. So try to be specific when you describe your pattern. Okay, so